Welcome back, focused learners. Have you ever found yourself at a professional event, just standing there holding a cup of coffee, and suddenly you completely freeze up when someone asks about your career? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. In this explainer, we're going to decode the exact vocabulary and, the specific grammar structures you actually need to confidently navigate those tricky professional networking scenarios. By the time we wrap this up, you'll have a complete toolkit to present yourself and your career with total clarity.
Okay, let's dive into this. What do? It's literally the simplest, most universal question in the entire business world. It's the ultimate icebreaker. But let's be honest here. It's also the very first major test of professional small talk. When someone asks you this, they aren't just looking for your job title. They want a clear, concise snapshot of your professional identity. So how you answer this short, forward question, it completely sets the tone for the entire conversation that follows. To help us master this, let me introduce our very first guide, Kirsten. She's a car designer, and her introduction is an absolute masterclass in precision. Just look at the specific preposition she uses. She says, "I work for a large European car maker," and then immediately follows that up with, "I work on car design." It brilliantly illustrates the rule. We use work for when naming the company or entity that employs us, and we use work on to pinpoint our specific field, project, or specialty. It's a tiny, subtle shift, but getting these prepositions right, it instantly makes you sound incredibly professional.
But Kirsten doesn't just stop there. She actually elaborates using these fantastic power verbs that are perfect for anyone in a leadership role. She tells us she has to run the design department and manage a team of designers. And then she drops this highly effective phrase, 20 people work under me. These verbs, run, manage, and the phrase work under me, are the exact tools you need to accurately describe your scope and authority. They clearly communicate responsibility without making you sound, arrogant. So the crucial point is avoiding a really common pitfall when talking about what we do. When we want to talk about our duties, it's totally correct to say something like, "One of my responsibilities is to make sure," or "I'm responsible for coordination." But check out the incorrect phrasing on the right. You'll often hear people accidentally say, "I'm a responsible." It's kind of humorous, sure, but it happens all the time. In professional English, responsible in this context is just an adjective. It is not a standalone noun used to describe your job title.
Let's just slow down for a second and really cement this, because honestly, this is where the magic happens. Here are the specific grammatical guardrails you absolutely need. When you use the phrase "in charge of," it must be followed by a noun. For example, in charge of design budgets. But if you use responsible for, and you want to use an action word, it has to be a verb ending in ing, like responsible for coordinating. Just keep these two structures side by side in your mind, and I promise you, you will navigate descriptions of your daily duties flawlessly.
Section 2, the strict rules of work. This rule is absolutely fundamental. The word work acts as both the action of doing your job and the physical place where you actually do it, but it has incredibly rigid rules and outright rejects certain articles and prepositions. For instance, you never say someone has a work. You'd say they have a job, or they just have work. Plus, when you're talking about the location itself, we never say we are at the work or going to the work. You just drop the entirely. It's simply at work or going to work.
And this rule scales up all the way to macroeconomics. If the economy is growing and you have a job, the correct professional phrasing is that you are in work. On the flip side, if someone is unemployed and without a job, they are out of work. It's a very clean professional binary that totally helps you avoid any clunky phrasing. And just to add a quick bit of context from our source material on the current state of things, this number here represents a totally surprising statistic. It turns out that the percentage of people out of work has actually fallen to its lowest level in 30 years. It's a massive milestone for the economy, and using our new vocabulary, we can articulate that trend perfectly.
To help us really visualize what being in work looks like on a day-to-day basis, let's meet our second guide, Frank. Frank tells us, "I work in a bank in New York City." Notice that preposition in. He works inside an institution, in a specific city. Frank is basically going to help us map out the daily grind and give us the exact language we need to describe the passage of a standard workday.
Let's move to and see how this builds across Frank's daily timeline. At 7:30 a.m., Frank doesn't just leave. The professional phrase is leave for work. Then, after his commute, he'll get to or arrive at work around 9 a.m. And finally, throughout the day, the preposition shifts yet again. He is at work till 6 p.m. Tracing this timeline visually really shows us exactly how our prepositions need to pivot as our physical relationship to our job changes throughout the day. Now, Frank mentions that he doesn't get ill very much. Lucky guy, right? But when he does need to be away, there is a highly specific phrase he uses: take time off work. This is the exact professional way to describe an absence due to illness or personal reasons. You wouldn't say you are taking a pause from work or cutting work. You just take time off work.
Moving on to our final section, classifying your employment type. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how cleanly we can break down our actual time commitments. First up, we have full-time, which describes a job taking up the entirety of the normal working week. Then we have part-time, which is anything less than the normal working week. When you're networking, you can simply say you work full-time or work part-time to instantly communicate the sheer scale of your professional commitment to whoever you're talking to. Building right on top of that, we also have to define the longevity of the role itself. A permanent job is one that does not finish after a fixed period. It's ongoing. A temporary job, however, has a very defined endpoint. It finishes after a fixed period. Mastering these exact distinctions guarantees that you'll sound totally fluent and precise in any global business conversation. Bringing it all together, you now have this incredibly flexible toolkit. These descriptors, temporary, permanent, full-time, and part-time, cleanly snap onto both the noun work and the noun job. Think about it. You can have a full-time job, or you can do full-time work. You can look for temporary work or accept a temporary job. The combinations here give you immense flexibility in how you describe your employment status, all while remaining grammatically perfect.
So using all these rules, how would you describe what you do? I challenge you to take Kirsten and Frank's playbook and apply it to your own professional pitch. Think about your power verbs, your prepositions, and your employment type. Just how sharp can you make your answer? And more importantly, what other subtle grammar mistakes might be secretly sabotaging your networking right now? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.